Jim Knowles initially dismissed the strange noises he'd been hearing, convinced it was just his imagination. However, when his two children reported similar eerie sounds coming from the backyard, he realized it was time to take action. The unsettling, whirring noises had persisted for weeks, always originating near the old tree that offered shade from the harsh Nevada Sunday. With the kids now involved, Jim knew he had to investigate further. What could be causing the mysterious sounds? Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Jim stared at the old tree, his thoughts troubled by the strange noise that had been echoing in his mind. The next day, Jim strolled through the yard, circling the tree as he went. Pressing his ear against the trunk, he anticipated silence but was met with a faint yet distinct hum. Perplexed, Jim chose to remain still and observe, the enigma troubling him, but he wasn't prepared to take action just yet. At dinner, Jim told his wife, Sarah, about his discovery. "The sound is definitely real," he said. "It's coming from the tree." Molly and Ben glanced at each other, their expressions tinged with concern. "Do you think it could be dangerous?" Sarah asked, a frown creasing her forehead. Jim shrugged, uncertain. "I'm not sure, but I'll contact a tree surgeon tomorrow. It might just be something harmless." That night, Jim restlessly shifted in bed, unable to escape the unsettling sounds that plagued his mind. The following morning, Jim reached out to a local tree expert, Mark, who showed up that afternoon. "You mentioned a noise?" Mark inquired, inspecting the tree with a hint of doubt. "Yes, it's coming from somewhere around here," Jim replied. Mark listened intently by pressing his ear against the trunk. After a moment, he stepped back, puzzled. "I can hear it," he said, "but this is unlike anything I've encountered before." Jim's interest grew. "What should we do next?" he asked. Mark circled the tree, scratching his head in confusion. "It's definitely not termites," he concluded, dismissing the obvious cause. "Could it be underground pipes?" Jim proposed, though they both understood it was a slim possibility. Mark shook his head. "There's nothing like that around here. Maybe the roots are just shifting." Yet even he seemed unsure, as the hum felt oddly mechanical rather than natural. "I'll keep looking into it," he assured. As Jim and Mark scrutinized the tree outside, Sarah peered through the kitchen window, her unease growing with every step they took. The once comforting sight of their familiar yard now seemed fraught with unease. When Jim returned inside, Sarah's worry was palpable. "Do you think we're safe here?" she asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. Jim's hesitation spoke volumes. "I don't know, but we'll figure it out," he reassured her. Their safe haven, the house, the yard, the tree no longer felt secure, as if a shadow of something sinister had settled over their sanctuary. Over the next few days, the eerie noises grew louder and more persistent. Jim noticed the unsettling hum even during daylight hours, a continuous vibration that seemed to pulse through the ground. One evening, Molly pointed out the increased volume, her voice tinged with concern. Jim gritted his teeth, realizing that whatever was causing this disturbance wasn't going to disappear on its own. The noise, now more pronounced and demanding, suggested something beneath the earth was stirring. "Tomorrow," he resolved, "we'll address this head-on." "Are you certain about this?" Sarah questioned as Jim readied himself to cut down the tree. "It's been here for generations." She cherished the tree, and so did the kids. The thought of the yard without its grand presence, offering shade and beauty, was hard to bear. Jim sighed, his resolve firm despite his unease. "I don't see another option. Something feels off." The strange noises had been unsettling him, disrupting his sleep and fraying his nerves. "Maybe it's nothing, but we need to find out," he said, tightening his grip on the saw. However, before cutting it down, Jim decided to try one last thing. He borrowed a metal detector from a friend and scanned around the tree. If there was something metallic underground, it could explain the hum. As he moved the detector around, it beeped furiously near the roots. "Found something," Jim muttered. Digging a small hole revealed nothing but dirt, yet the beeping persisted. "What's buried here?" he wondered as the mystery deepened. The search yielded no answers, only frustration. "It's not making sense," Jim told Sarah that night. Her uneasy expression lingered in his mind. The next morning, Jim decided the tree had to come down. He arranged for Mark to help later that week. Meanwhile, the hum grew louder, filling the air. One afternoon, Ben ran inside, pale-faced. "Dad, the ground's vibrating," he said. Jim felt it too faint but real. "It's happening again," he muttered. Word spread quickly. Neighbors stopped by, curious and uneasy. That night, Jim barely slept. The hum deepened into a vibration that seemed to pulse through the walls. Sarah lay awake beside him, silent with fear. Something unnatural was beneath their yard, and tomorrow they would uncover it. "Tomorrow will bring answers," Jim whispered to himself. In the morning, Sarah and the kids watched from the porch as the chainsaw bit into the bark. The tree groaned, and the hum intensified, deep and angry. Suddenly, the chainsaw stopped. "It's like it hit something," Mark said, wiping sweat from his brow. "Something inside the tree?" Jim asked. "No, underground." They exchanged a fearful glance. "I'll get a shovel," Jim said. Whatever lay beneath was stopping them. They began digging at the base of the tree. They cleared more dirt, revealing a 5-foot circular hatch with a handle in the center. Jim nodded, gripping the handle. It felt warm, almost alive, under his hand. He glanced at Mark, who was pale and sweaty. "We're in this together," Jim said, forcing a grin. "Let's get this over with." Together, they pulled the hatch open. The passage stretched downward into the earth. Mark's voice trembled. "This isn't a bunker, it's a passage." Jim called his old Army friends, Greg and Sam. Hours later, they arrived, wide-eyed at the sight of the open hatch. "Could be military," Greg said, "or something else." With flashlights and rope, they descended. The tunnel was narrow, damp, and lined with smooth stone. The sound seemed to come from the walls themselves. Strange symbols were etched into the walls, their patterns unfamiliar yet deliberate. "Looks official," Greg said. The humming grew louder, pressing against their ears. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber filled with silent machinery. Lights blinked weakly on corroded panels. "What is this?" Greg breathed. Jim's flashlight swept over consoles, cables, and strange devices. "This looks like government tech," Sam said. "Area 50. "One stuff," Greg joked weakly, but Jim wasn't smiling. "We need to call the authorities." When officials arrived, they took one look and ordered everyone out. That evening, the family packed up as military trucks surrounded their property. Soldiers sealed the hatch and fenced off the land. As they drove away, he glanced back at the fallen tree. Whatever was beneath their home had changed their lives forever. Sleep didn't come easily. The new house was quiet, yet Jim's thoughts raced. He couldn't shake the image of the tunnel and the hum that had followed him, even in dreams. "We should forget it," Sarah said softly. But Jim couldn't. He texted Greg and Sam, "Meet me tonight. We're going back." Under the cover of darkness, Greg and Sam arrived with flashlights and gear. They parked a mile away and crept toward the fenced property. The wind howled through the trees, echoing the same haunting hum. "Feels wrong," Sam whispered. Reaching the perimeter, Jim cut a small opening with wire cutters. They slipped through one by one, crouching low beneath flickering security lights. They reached the spot where the hatch had been buried. "They sealed it," Sam said. Jim dropped to his knees, brushing away the dirt, until his fingers met cold metal. "We can still get in," he whispered. The hatch groaned as it lifted. "Go," Jim said quietly. "We're in." The tunnel felt colder than before, the hum vibrating through the stone walls. Jim flicked on his flashlight, the beam slicing through the dark. "Where are we heading?" Sam asked. Jim didn't answer. The symbols on the walls glowed faintly as they moved deeper, pulsing with eerie light. "This place feels alive," Greg whispered. Jim's gut tightened with fear. Rounding a corner, they froze. Flashlights approached 2 soldiers in uniform, speaking in low, urgent tones. "Down!" Jim hissed, pushing the others to the ground. The men passed, their voices fading. "They're hiding something," Sam whispered. Jim's pulse quickened. "We need to see what." They crept forward until the tunnel opened into the same chamber as before, now fully lit and alive with activity. Machines hummed, screens flickered, and soldiers moved purposefully around a massive cylindrical device in the center. "What is that?" Sam breathed. "Whatever it is," Jim murmured, "it's not supposed to be here." Hiding behind crates, Jim spotted a set of blueprints. "It's some kind of generator," he said. Greg's eyes widened. "This could power entire cities." Sam shook his head. "Or something far worse." Jim felt his stomach drop. "They've built this under our home." The realization chilled him. "We have to get out now." Before they could move, a piercing alarm blared through the tunnels. Red lights flashed. Soldiers shouted orders. "They know we're here!" Greg yelled. "Move!" Jim led the way back into the dark passages as boots thundered behind them. The tunnels twisted endlessly. Jim's military instincts kicked in, guiding them through narrow corridors as the sound of pursuit grew louder. "We can't outrun them!" Greg gasped. "Keep going!" Jim ordered. A flashlight beam swept past, striking the wall beside them. "Over there!" a soldier shouted. Jim yanked the others into a small alcove, holding his breath as troops rushed past. When the voices faded, Jim whispered, "We need to reach the hatch." They crept forward quietly, but another shout split the air. There, flashlights flared. "Run!" Jim barked. They sprinted through the tunnels, the hum rising to a deafening pitch. The hatch came into view. "Go!" Jim pushed Greg and Sam up first before scrambling out himself. Soldiers emerged from the tunnel just as they bolted toward the fence. "Get down!" someone shouted. They dove behind a hill, panting, as the property swarmed with soldiers. "We barely made it!" Sam gasped. Jim stared at the lights flickering across the yard. "We're not done yet." Days later, the Knowles family was relocated to a modern home, courtesy of the government. Sarah admired the space, but Jim couldn't rest. "Why move us here?" he asked. When Greg and Sam visited, the same thought haunted them all. "They're hiding something," Greg said. Jim's jaw tightened. "We need to go back." Late one night, the trio returned to the old property, sneaking toward the sealed tunnel. Bright lights cut through the darkness. "Stop!" Military guards surrounded them. An officer stepped forward, his tone cold. "You've been moved for your safety. Do not return." They were released with a stern warning, but as Jim walked away, the distant hum of the underground still echoed in his ears. No matter how comfortable the new house was, he knew one truth: whatever lay beneath that tree was still alive, still waiting.